So we have this E2 pattern and ME2 pattern from Indicator Smart, right? And so the question is, how do we identify this simple bar pattern here? And this is for a Renko chart. It's basically a simple pattern, looking at the wicks of the bars there, right? So I do have a couple of these patterns identified here just to get us started here. So the first one, so this one is where the current bar, and since these are Renko bars, this would also have to be the wick here, where the bar and mainly the wick encompasses the Renko brick. And so that would be this guy right here, these two on the left, right? We can see that the wick encompasses the prior bar's bricks, body size or brick size, right? So that's the E2. And then the ME2 involves a reversal bar, right? So this is where the wick, so the continuation bar after a reversal bar, so on the following continuation bar, the wick encompasses 50% of the reversal bar's body, right? So you have to take the body and do 50%, right? So you have to surpass that 50% price value there of the body, right? Now, I want to make it very clear that BloodHound does not calculate percentages, right? BloodHound is not a math calculator for you. So there is an exception here, right? So BloodHound is not calculating 50%. 50% just happens to coincide with a price data series that we already have built into BloodHound. Well, built into BloodHound and Blackbird, just built into the Shark Indicators base code here, right? So again, BloodHound is not calculating 50%, and it does not calculate 50%, right? That's because 50% is impossible to calculate, because for traders, this 50%, or maybe sometimes you want 60% or 33%, right? Well, that percentage has a different starting point for every trader. Maybe it's 50% of the wick, or maybe it's 50% from halfway of the body, so when traders use 50%, the 2 points that they're measuring from changes all the time. So there's no way that BloodHound could accommodate for every trader's wildest dreams of what they're measuring 50% from, right? So so from that kind of understanding, plus BloodHound is not a math calculator, right? That is what indicators do, right? Indicators calculate math, such as a moving average is a math calculation, right? So I just want to make that very clear that BloodHound is not calculating this 50%. It's just that because this 50% is of the brick, we do happen to have a price, I don't want to say a price point, but a price, that is 50% of the body. So, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute once we actually start building these patterns here. So let's see. All right, let's scoot this forward just a tad bit. There we go. So, all right, so first thing, let's get BloodHound open, and we'll get the file name inserted to get today's workshop started. All right, so first thing is, right, we don't have a name here for today's workshop file. So let's go to the main tab and then go to the save as. There we go. And so from here we can, let's see, it is the 18th. All right, so we'll save that. And so there we go. So now we have a file name that all of our work, right, that all of today's questions will get saved to. So let's see, I can probably shrink this up a little bit. So let's see. All right, yeah, so we'll do the E2 pattern first. So I'm gonna scoot this over a little bit. So when you're looking at the E2 pattern, what we're doing is we're comparing, let me kind of open this up just a tad bit. And actually, there's quite a few of them right there. There. So we're comparing, right, the wick of the current bar and making sure that the wick, or in other words, the low price, is below the open of the previous bar, right? So the brick would be the close and the open price, right? So we're just making sure that the low is below or maybe equal. It's not very specific here, but maybe the wick only has to be equal. For example, like on this bar, right? So obviously you can make that decision on yourself there, whether equal is okay or if it actually has to surpass it. So let's get this open here again. And so we're going to use a comparison solver, right, to compare. Again, we're comparing the low of the current bar to the open of the previous bar. So let's connect that in, and let's give this a name here. So we're comparing the low of the current bar, but also if it's a down Renko, then it would be the high of the wick for a down bar, right? And we're comparing that to the open. So let's see here. So input A, that'll be, right, the current bar's low or high price. So we're going to switch the type over to price. Same with input B, right? We want the price there as well. Scoot that down. All right, so input A is either going to be the low or the high, right? So for a long signal, right? So in other words, if the bars are going up, we're comparing the low price. There we go. So for short, it would be the opposite, which would be the high price, to the open. So input B is going to be the open for both. So let's switch this over to open. Switch the short signal over to open. And so now for input B, right, that's the open of the previous bar. So that means the look back period needs to be incremented up to 2. And let's see, so we do have some outputs already here, but as we can see, right, they're not quite right. So what that means is, let's stretch this open a little bit more, is we need to go into the comparison settings here and make sure that the rules are set up correctly. Wait a sec for that window to build. There we go. Right. So, right, when we look at the rules here, for a long output, it says the low needs to be greater than the open. But no, we want the opposite, right? We want the low less than the open. So we need to reverse these conditions here, right? That's why things are backwards, right? Right. So let's reverse these. That's what we want. We can hit the apply button, right? And so now there, so on this bar here, right, we can see that there's a long output, right? And obviously on this bar, there's a long output as well because the low is less than the open, which is way up there. And on these bars here, and let's scoot this over, right? On all these bars, there's a long output, long output, long output. So now obviously we can see we need to get rid of the short output, right? So let's work on that next. Yeah. And the easy way to get rid of the short output is, we know that, right? Let's see here. So when we need these Renko bars to be an up bar, right? So for example, like we don't want to do this comparison, right? We don't want this, right? We don't want to compare a up bar to a down bar, right? That's an invalid comparison. So we need at least two bars in the same direction, right? The previous bar has to be an up bar and the current bar has to be an up bar, right? Both in the same direction. So we can use a bar direction to make sure, that the two bars that we're comparing or that we're using, sorry, we're only comparing one bar, but the two bars that we're using are both in the same direction. So we can use the bar direction here to clean that up. And so the number of bars, we can increment that to 2, right? And so when we look at this, right, we can see that, look, on this first reversal bar, there is no output. So this would be, so that would invalidate this comparison here. But on all these other bars where, we can compare the wick to the previous brick size, right? These all have a long output, right? Validating it. So now we just need to join these two conditions together using an AND node, right? Because we need both conditions true at the same time. And there we have it. So that cleared out all the short output and just left us with the long output that we're looking for. So there we go. Actually, yeah, wow, this uptrend here actually had quite a few. There we go. All right, so that would be the E2, the first pattern there. And so now let's work on the ME2, which involves a reversal bar. And here, let's name this AND node here. So we can call this the E2 pattern. There we go. Let's see here. All right. So this time we know that this only applies to a reversal bar, right? So yeah, so we want to make sure that these continuation bars are filtered out here. So that means we need an inflection bar, right? So the inflection solver is great for identifying Renko reversal bars. Okay, let's connect that up. So this is going to be simply, right, a price inflection. So the input, we're going to change that over to price, and we'll just look at the close of the bar, right? So obviously, a reversal bar is when the close, goes from up to down and from down to up, right? So there we go. We can see we've identified all of these reversal bars here. So we've identified, right, the reversal bar. So we have a long output here. And so now we need to shift this long output onto the next bar here. But also we're going to need this bar direction as well. So here, actually, let me go back. Let's adjust this name here. So this is actually a 2-bar direction. That's what this is identifying here. And since we know that, right, so in other words, we want to make sure that, right, the next bar needs to be a continuation bar. So we want to make sure that a reversal and another reversal and another reversal, that we're not comparing reversal bars to reversal bars again, like we did with the E2 pattern, right? So we're going to use this 2-bar direction and combine it with this price inflection. So let's go to the logic nodes here. And let's grab another AND node. Connect that up. And if we look at this, right, look, we're not getting any output. And so why is there no output? Well, if we look at the inflection, right, we're getting a long signal there, right, a long signal there, and a long signal there. Now, if we look at the bar direction, right? Let's connect that up to the result node, right? Look, the long output of the bar direction doesn't match the price inflection, right? So like I said earlier, we need to take this um, long output, or this kind of long signal, and shift it forward one bar, right? This one, shift it forward one bar, this one, and shift it forward one bar, right? That's this price inflection here. Right? This price inflection needs to be shifted one forward one bar so that the signal is actually on the next bar where the ME2 pattern might occur. Right? So to shift this forward, let's see, actually, let's see, yeah, there's two ways. Yeah, let's just increase the look back period. So yeah, we'll just increase that to 2. And when we do that, you know, bingo, we get a long output on the reversal bar, right, and on the next bar as well. So now when we look at the AND node, right, there is our output, right, which is just identifying that the next bar is a continuation bar, right? So we can see that when we get a reversal bar, right, there's no long output. So therefore, we won't get any false signals on the reverse if there's a reversal bar afterwards, right? So when we get, all right, a reversal bar and a continuation bar, right, we get a long output. So now we need to validate the wick, right? So we need to make sure that this wick is below the midpoint of the bar there, or the midpoint of the brick or the body. Right? So in other words, right, remember this comparison solver here, you know, which is comparing the low of the wick and the high of the wick to the open, right? That's what's validating, you know, the main condition of the E2, right? Well, we need that same kind of comparison to compare the wick to the midpoint of the brick or the body. So that's what we're missing here so far. So let's add, actually, let's do this. Let's make a copy of the one that we've already built here, and we can paste it down here. There we go. Let's connect that up. So again, we are comparing the low, right? So for a long signal here, right? So this is going to be a long signal. We are comparing the low to, now it's this time it's not the open, but the body midpoint. So, you know, 50%, you know, 50% of the Renko bar brick, you know, 50% of the brick, well, that's just a, I guess, a mathematical formula way of saying the midpoint of the body. So instead of this, yeah, so instead of input B being the open, we're going to switch this over. And you can see at the very bottom, right? So when you look through this list, right, you can see all of NinjaTrader's, you know, bar prices there, right? NinjaTrader even calculates the median of the bar, the typical, and the weighted prices of the bar. But Shark also adds these 3 extra price types. So the body top, right? Body top. So it doesn't matter the direction of the bar. It's whatever the top of the body is. So sometimes the top is the close. Sometimes the top of the body is the open, right? So whatever the top is, it doesn't matter. And then we also have this median, right? Which basically, well, yeah, we call it median, but yeah, that'd be the midpoint as well. So yeah, let's rename this here. And so for the long output, there, we switch it over to the median, body median, and also for the short signals, switch it over to the body median. So there. And let's see here. So yeah, so like on these two continuation bars, right, we can see that this wick didn't get low enough to, right, didn't get below the body median. And even this one, yeah, it looks like this one got down to the body median, but it didn't go below it, right? So, and again, this has a bunch of short outputs, right? Which currently, when we look at our AND node, right, there are no short outputs, right? So that's going to clean up all the short outputs that are coming from this solver, right? So let's connect that up, and let's see, let's shrink this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so there's 3 signals there. And so when we connect in this final condition here, right, that'll filter things out. So there we go. I got rid of that signal, got rid of this signal over here, and we're only left, right, with the actual ME2 pattern there. Right. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So we even have a short one there as well. And let's rename this AND node here, something like that. And there we have it. And so now, if you want to see both of these patterns at the same time, we can then connect them both together using an OR node. Right? So if we connect those AND nodes into the OR node, take a look at that, and there we go. Now we can see all of those patterns together. All right, well, that does it. So yeah, these 2 patterns are not that sophisticated. So, and let's see, I don't see any follow-up questions on this, so I guess we're done. All right. So yeah, let me just, I guess, since I don't have any questions waiting for me right now, I just want to kind of circle back around here and, just remind people here, emphasize that, again, BloodHound is not calculating this 50% of, the brick, right? We just happen to have, a body median price there, which is what that 50% mark is of, the body or the brick, there. So that's the only reason why we were able to do this, is because, yeah, BloodHound, has this body median price point, built into it. So otherwise, when you're wanting to do these fancy 50%, 33%, 75%, things like that, that's when you need a custom indicator that's going to go in there and, calculate, between the 2 exact price points, that you're measuring that percentage of, and actually do that very specialized specific math there. So, so if you ever wanted to adjust this to like 66%, you would need your own specialized indicator, to calculate whatever the 66% price is, of the Renko bars, brick.